with Jianna Bonomi,
Yeah.
death survivor. Thanks so much for joining us on Perform.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So your story is incredible, honestly. Like I followed you and I wanted to interview you because for a lot of people who don't know, you were hit by a drunk driver and, like you were in critical condition. And, tell us a little bit about what the doctor said, the condition that you were in, and what you've had to go through to kind of get to where you are now.
Yeah, honestly, the story is crazy. I always say to people when I'm sharing it, it really feels just kind of like a movie. I was hit at 90 miles per hour head on by a drunk driver in 2018. And I basically had my chances at surviving that were little to none. Every one of the doctors that I saw had told me that it was a complete miracle that one, I was alive, and two, that I still had my legs. Because of the extent of the accident, my feet were shattered. I had pulmonary embolisms in both lungs, broken wrist, 3 broken ribs, a lacerated liver, and just multiple lacerations all over my body. So I spent 3 days in the ICU. We were waiting for my liver to heal itself. So I had a 3rd-degree laceration, which basically is right in the middle between your body will either heal itself or they will have to go in surgically. And that's where I was also told that my feet were shattered and that I would have to get them surgically repaired. So I spent 4 weeks at Cedars-Sinai, and then I was later transported to Hoag Rehabilitation, which is a rehabilitation hospital that basically acclimates you to being as independent as you can with this new body and this new circumstance. And so learning how to use your wheelchair, learning how to be as independent as possible. And yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy experience, but it's taught me a lot about life, a lot about myself. It's given me clarity and gratitude in ways that I don't know if I would have been able to have had I had not gone through all the experiences that I've gone through, especially within this accident.
From the time you got hit until the time you recovered, how long did that take?
So I got hit 2018. I underwent 4 surgeries following that, and I recovered. It took me about 2 years, and I still am recovering currently. So I had to basically my whole feet, like my whole anatomy of my foot, it was shattered. So I had like 3 plates and 18 screws in my right foot, and a plate and 8 screws in my left foot. So the middle of my entire foot is fused. So I had to learn how to, one, balance on this new internal structure and figure out a way, your feet are your foundation. So trying to acclimate to this new foreign almost sensation in your body and trying to relate to it as your new normal. It took me about 2 years. I jumped one time before this biggest production that I'm on currently. And I just kind of took it day by day and worked really hard. And I went to physical therapy like 4 to 5 times a week. It was like my full-time job.
Wow. So during that time, like, how did you stay positive? What did you do? Like, can you give the people out there who are going through hard times? Like, I know a lot of people, especially during COVID, are, going through a lot of stuff. And obviously you've come through this traumatic experience. So can you give some insight on like what you did to stay positive? Like, was it a mindset? Was it prayer? Like, give us some insight.
Yeah, I definitely, my faith carried me a lot in ways because I really honestly believe that there are circumstances that happen in your life to grow you and to shape you and to throw you outside of your comfort zone. There's no other way that you can grow if you aren't uncomfortable. And unfortunately, sometimes those circumstances are not ideal. Sometimes they can be life-threatening. And it teaches you a level of letting go. There are so many things that you really don't have control of, and utilizing the things that you do have control over. So with my situation, you know, a former professional athlete that now is depending on 4 people to help me go to the bathroom, teaching me humility in ways that I don't know how else I would have learned. And so you go from that experience and being in a situation where I have no control over what's going on and what my, you know, the nature of my body. But the thing that I do have control over is my mindset. And the one thing that I really took almost like just such importance in prioritizing is meditating and creating a space where I can exist without being thrown into this entire crazy world that we live in. It gave me a sense of peace. It gave me a sense of honesty within myself. I think it's really important for people to also just characterize. I think it's really important for people to view healing in a more cyclical fashion. I know for me and a lot of athletes in general, we have these goals and we think of it almost like a linear journey. But for me and what I have learned and what I've come to learn is that healing is so cyclical. You know, the more that you heal, you come into a deeper relationship with yourself. And so it also gives you an area when you term healing in that way, you don't judge yourself for what you see as setbacks. You know, you see things as opportunities to heal deeper. You view things that come up as opportunities to practice a new sense of being intentional of where you are choosing to use your energy and your thoughts. I think it's easy when you are in a situation like for me, you know, having to sit down with the doctors and they're telling me, you know, you will never return back to an active lifestyle. You just physiologically are unable to, and you should be grateful that you're alive. And I think that oftentimes, you know, we allow whether it's medical professionals or, you know, experts in this and experts in that to dictate our life and our reactions and our actions to our own set of circumstances. And I know that if I had taken what that doctor had said, and multiple doctors, well, statistically, I'm not able to, and physiologically, I'm not able to, then I don't know where I would have been. But I had that from the beginning, being in that position, like I refused to quit. And I refused, there was this just commitment to refusing to quit, regardless of how painful it was. And physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was in those places where that was tested to the nth degree. It was just falling back on, you know, what I can control, and what I can control is my attitude towards the situation.
Tell us a little bit about for people who don't know, your athletic career, professional athletic career, what you were doing, you know, and, you know, what you're doing now in terms of, you know, physical fitness.
So I was a volleyball player most of my life. I actually started when I was 4 years old. And my parents were Hall of Fame, played all throughout college on the beach. My stepdad was in the Olympics. So I grew up in an Olympian like household. I played volleyball all throughout high school. I got recruited by several universities. I ended up playing at indoor volleyball at the University of San Diego. And then I got a second scholarship to play beach volleyball at the University of Arizona. I also represented California in the California Polynesian All-Stars. So I traveled different countries, and I also represented USA on the USA Women's Collegiate National Team. So given my whole background with athletics, it was fitness has always just been a component within the job that I was hired to do. It was my entire identity. And so just through the whole journey of this, going through a near-death experience, being in such a, I mean, I am technically handicapped. So I am disabled, and I have my little placard and everything like that. And so the types of, you know, I've had to do adjustments to there are certain like exercises that I have to learn where I'm pushing it and where I can push it a little bit more. Now I've done a lot of HIIT training. I love HIIT training. And that's something that it's like a love-hate relationship with, because they had told me that I wasn't going to be able to jump. It just wasn't, you know, the middle of my foot is fused together. There's no movement there. It'll just rupture everything that they did. And I had the blessing of being picked to be on Beachbody's new high intensity program, Muscle Burns Fat. And I was pushed to the nth degree in that whole program. I got rehired for their advanced program as well. And I had only jumped one time before that. So that was a challenge for me in ways where I was pushing myself physically, mentally, and I really didn't know if I was capable of physiologically doing what was asked of me. But I just showed up and said, I'll try. And so now I focus a lot on, I love biking. I'll always try to incorporate less, low impact types of just exercises in general, and just learning. I think that the beautiful thing about physical pain, I also like to try to use vocabulary like discomfort over pain. The beautiful aspect of it is that it allows you to form a true deeper connection with your body. I had played sports my whole life, and I hadn't had the intention, the attentiveness that I do now, having been through all that I have gone through. And it's kind of funny because I'm in the best shape that I've been, even through all of my years of playing professional sports and whatnot. And it was after me being in a wheelchair for like 5 months.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I'm almost jealous of those arms of yours there. I know a lot of people. They're like, holy smokes, this girl is ripped. Like, you know?
I'm like, what internal bleeding? What broken ribs?
So, tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up in an Olympic household. Like, is that where you got this fighter mentality? Like, was there a lot of pressure? Like, how were your parents encouraging? Like, give us some insight on like how it would be different than growing up in a regular household.
Oh my goodness. There was a standard that was set for all aspects, I would say. And the standard was here. And it was a constant, that standard was upheld in all areas of my life. And so my parents were my coaches. So I didn't get to, have a bad day at practice or a tournament and get to go home and whatnot. No, I mean, they were intense. They knew what it took for them to be successful. And I think that they saw potential in me and they just ran with it. I honestly barely had a childhood. I spent my childhood in gyms. And when I wasn't in regular practice, I would be doing privates and I would doing extra strength training and extra workouts. Because in volleyball, I'm very, very undersized. I'm 5'6". And even from when I was young, I was told it was almost like I've always had this kind of underdog sort of personality, like being small in a predominantly tall sport. I was constantly told throughout my career, you're not going to make it past this point physiologically because you are 5'6". You're going to be playing against girls that are 6'5". Like I've played against girls who are 6'5". Wow. And, so having that constantly be like, it's like are you going to rise up to the challenge? Are you going to rise up to the occasion or not? Do you want it as bad as you say that you do? Because it's not just saying it, it's the hours and hours and hours I spent alone in a gym, wanting it so badly that I could do that. I could, that was my level of dedication. But yeah, there were so many instances. I went to 2 dances my whole high school career. And there are definitely times in tournaments I got grounded for the way that because I wasn't focused on the way that I played, or, so it was a really intense environment, like growing up. But
they have like prearranged dates, like, how they have prearranged marriages. It's like, you're going to date this guy because he's got.
Oh, no, dating was not allowed. I remember my mom had a conversation with me saying I wasn't even allowed to have crushes. And I'm like, what? Mentally, I'm like, what? Like, I had to be so, like, my life was volleyball. My life was, hit, like, these are the goals that you need to reach. Wow. And it was, it was a really interesting way. I'm seeing now how that kind of discipline and that kind of mindset carries over, even just the way that I live my life. And I have to balance it, with being overly critical of myself and learning grace, and learning that there aren't such things as wins and losses. Like, it's just learning. That's something that has been a big, just learning curve for me in general, because I was taught and I was raised to be a perfectionist, and these are the standards that are set. And if you don't reach them, then they always said, if you're not first place, you're last place. Wow. So carrying that over, it's just acclimating it back into a more well-rounded life, like a more well-rounded life perspective, and a more well-rounded just relationship with self.
Mm-hmm. Were you able to like stick with that plan with all these guys probably chasing you? Did you not break at some point and date?
Oh my gosh. Well, the thing is that I have this thing where it's like, because my parents were so strict and so you're not allowed to, it's like, you fueled me to be boy crazy, because you literally told me that I wasn't able to, that wasn't allowed. But I mean, I think that I kind of rebelled in my other ways. Like, I have had so many different hairstyles, like pink hair. I pierced my lip in high school. I got my first tattoo in high school. I just kind of wanted that independence. And so, even if it was just it was just all these rules that I didn't want to necessarily follow, and the things that I did have quote unquote control over, I utilized to the utmost. Nice.
Where can people go to find out more information about you?
So I would say personally, I'm the most active on my Instagram. My Instagram is Jianna Bonomi _. I'm also coming out with a whole fitness line and a whole sort of fitness app. So I'm going to be taking on clients through that, but that is in the process right now. But Instagram is probably going to be the most personal that you will find me.
Perfect. Is there anything else you wanted to go over? Any questions you had for me before we wrap up today?
What was it about me that necessarily intrigued you to interview in terms of this Perform podcast?
To be honest, we have a mutual friend, Par Burnell. You know Per Burnell?
Oh my God! Yeah. I love him!
Yeah. So I was going through his photos on his page, and I'm like, because I think he's the best photographer in the game, right? And I so I was like, and then I'm like, who is this girl? I've never seen you, right? I'm like, because I know all of the people, right?
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. So then I'm like, who is this girl? He's because he's got you front and center up in his thing. So then I went to your page, And then I saw your story and I was like, oh, wow, like this girl's really like got like a great story, like, you know, so let's bring her on. And that's kind of like, I thought it would be unique because I'm sure that like my audience, some of the people may not know your story, may not have heard of you or seen you, but I'm sure, you know, now like people are going to be more, you know, known of who you are. And, you know, because I think you've got a good look and great energy. So yeah, I think it'll be good. Yeah.
Yes, it's so funny. If you're a quick story about that whole photo shoot that I did, because I love Pear. I was going through, like I told you, with like healing and whatnot. You go through these like stages where you're like, you know, you're very reflective on a lot of how do you feel about certain things. And I remember I had a night where I was just really, it was just one of those nights. It was really, I just felt really alone. I felt really lost. I felt like I just needed a sign. I needed some sort of guidance. Because that's what, you know, trauma does that to you. You feel very like isolated in ways of this new perspective and trying to acclimate back into the world. And I remember it was like late at night and I was crying and I was praying and I'm like, I just need to have a sign. I need a sign. I need to experience a clear sign that I know that I'm going in the right direction right now with my life and whatnot. And it's really funny because ask and you shall receive. The next morning, Pear had posted the photos of that we did in the photo shoot. It was about like a couple months prior. And through that, I had gotten a DM from The Rock. And I was like, I was like, at first I was like, who's I was like, oh, The Rock Instagram. And I'm like, oh, The Rock. And he had messaged me and through Pear putting those photos up of me, he was able to see my page and he read one of my writings. And it was a letter that I wrote and it was called Dear Pain. And he basically expressed to me that the relationship that I described was one that a lot of people, that perspective is a lot of, it's hard to reach. And a lot of people don't ever get to that point of being able to truly have that kind of relationship with pain. And he said that we were kindred spirits. So, you know, I was thinking, wow, well, that's a pretty clear sign. Yeah. I mean, you know, getting a message like that. So I was like, okay, thanks.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes, I had to share with you because Pear was involved and it was just like, it was such a beautiful experience, that entire shoot in general.
Nice. What do you have any goals coming up in the next like 6 months to a year that you're really focused on?
Yes. So I am really focused on developing my brand in terms, and not just my own personal brand. I just really genuinely feel compelled to share the knowledge that I have going through my own experience. I genuinely think that what I have learned, people need to hear in ways that if my story can help someone who may be going through a trauma of their own, or are lacking, you know, motivation, or lacking the connection within like themselves, you know, it's all aligning of, it's not just fitness, you know, it's mind, body, spirit. It's, I feel like all of those aspects are equally as important as, you know, just lifting weights and whatnot. So I have goals of really just creating a platform where I can help as many people on their fitness journeys, on their healing journeys, on their wellness journeys, in a more deep and intimate way than just being like, here, I'm going to help you tone your butt. Like, I'm going to, you know, I really feel like it's an all-inclusive sort of transformation. And I would love to provide that for as many people as possible. I'm also looking into creating a book that I'm going to be sharing my writings throughout what I've learned as well. And so those are all the plans that are in the upcoming months. I just want to be able to share and heal as much as I can.
Well, that's amazing. Listen, thank you so much for coming on the show. You were an amazing guest.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Pear, for initiating this, even if you didn't even know.
Honestly, great. Thanks again, Jeannie. Thank you.